The U.S. Defense Secretary says the old order in the Middle East is disappearing, although it's still not clear what will replace it. Chuck Hagel stressed the conflict in Syria is becoming increasingly more sectarian and extremist, with the country's collapse now more real than ever. But while some U.S. lawmakers make fresh calls for military intervention, Washington's taken a backseat, as Genetic Mutations now explains.
After the administration all but accused the Assad government of having used chemical weapons, Vice President Joe Biden now says, quote, "We don't know for certain whether they were used by some of the opposition, including the radicals who have aligned themselves with al-Qaeda." This is probably the first time we hear someone in the administration talk about the possibility that the rebels may have used chemical weapons. Just a few days ago, the White House press secretary was responding to the findings of the UN human rights investigation, which said SARIN nerve gas may have been used by the rebels in Syria, and he basically brushed off the report, saying it's, quote, "highly likely that Assad forces were behind it." That has also been the narrative perpetuated in the media. Last week, Chuck Hagel said the administration is considering arming the opposition. Also this week, a bill was introduced in the Senate that would authorize exactly that. Chuck Hagel delivered a speech at this conference in Washington where several commanders of the Free Syrian Army were also invited. In that speech, he did not mention arming the rebels. He said this.
Secretary Kerry and Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov announced they will seek to convene an international conference with representatives of the Syrian government and the opposition to determine how to implement a political transition in Syria. Using the full range of tools, the United States will continue to work toward achieving our goal of ending the violence and helping the Syrian people transition to a post-Assad authority.
So we see there is a buildup of hope for this conference, which will presumably take place sometime at the end of May. Both Washington and Moscow said they're working on it. But as far as the Syrian opposition, so far they have not clearly come out in favor of a political solution. Also, it's not clear how the idea of a political solution, something that Washington says it wants to achieve, can coexist with the idea of flooding the conflict with more weapons. Because when you give them arms, the message is go fight. The message is not stop fighting. So it seems that arming the rebels contradicts the core message of this Geneva communique, and both Washington and Moscow say they want this upcoming conference to be based on that Geneva communique, and that message is basically stop fighting and find a political solution.